What is up, everyone? It is Tuesday night, time for TCR Live, and I am joined by, of course, Troy and long time no see, our prodigal son. You thought you were lost somewhere in the great northern Midwest somewhere. Aaron,
Southwest Michigan now,
dude. Southwest Michigan. Okay, that sounds like a lot of fun. So, Aaron, as a returning co-host of honor, how are you, good sir?
I'm good. It's been 2.5 months, almost 3 months at this point, of just absolute bonkersness with moving and setting up things in the house, and then trying to make a house actually be, hey Tony, actually be a home and comfy and all that. But we got a new job, and it's really good, and I'm happy to be back.
It's good to have you back. And I'm not joking. I sincerely miss having you here, buddy. Troy, how are you, good sir?
It's good. It's good. It's finally cooling down here in the desert. It's
what's that, 80 degrees cooling down?
Well, it's that bipolar stage where, like, in the mornings it's like 45, 50, but then by lunch you're stripping off your layers because it's like 70 degrees again. So we're in that phase.
We're supposed to get
the beanie. And then, it's all good.
We're supposed to get 2 feet of snow by Sunday. So if you want any of that, we'll send you some of it.
Here in Georgia, it's kind of in the 30s at night, but it's in the 60s right nowadays, so which is pretty nice. So nice. I had hot cocoa earlier tonight, which was super nice. Yeah, it's the right weather for that. So
exactly.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're here for TCR Live. We're going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals, talk about what happened this last week. We're going to talk about some of the stories. We got some great folks in the chat. Appreciate folks here. Mark Jackson, thanks for being here. Channel member, great supporter, and a writer for azsportsunderground.com. I was in the NFC West Network live stream. They had a kind of a roundtable live stream. I kind of filled in for someone for Mike Daisy Sports Fan. So Mark was over there. Thank you for that. We got Grandizer, always holding down the chat. Appreciate you. Of course, we have Tony. Do we really think McBride is about to go off? I don't know.
Cliffhanger. No pun intended.
Right. We got Cruz Ispuro. Thank you for being here. A new channel member and a great supporter of the channel. Appreciate you. When you see what Steve Wilkes is doing with that with the Painters, how does that make you feel about him as a coach compared to Cliff, especially because I feel like he was never given a chance? I think Wilkes, he got a little bit of a raw deal. You need more than 1 year, right? I don't know. What do you guys think about the Wilkes thing?
I just think it's a bad division.
Okay.
Yeah, it's such a hard. The thing that kind of crystallized me Wilkes thing a little bit more is, like, even after he left the Cardinals, like, he didn't really succeed anywhere. He's kind of bouncing around the league for a while, or like, and he even went back to college, I think, for a little bit. Don't totally remember his trajectory, but it's nice he's getting some wins, but it's bad division, and it's the Panthers. That's
fair for sure. Yeah. We've got Avery here. Thanks for being here. Steven Anderson, tight end one. Oh man. And then Phil, interesting the question: Do we really think McBride is about to justify his draft position with Ertz out for the year? Why don't we take that question before we get into kind of our regular topics? Aaron, what do you think about McBride and what we're gonna see from him with Zach Ertz injured?
I think that the sample size for what we've seen on McBride is just, it's not enough. So I hate to give that, well, you can't really make a judgment out of it, but in a way that, when you think about it going into that draft and at that time, you got to ask yourself, was tight end really the biggest need for this offense when you already had Zach Ertz? Yeah, and no one forecasts an injury, but they are part of the game. But you could have put in any other position you wanted, cornerback, offensive line. That could have been more of a need, because I don't. It's not anything personal against them. It's just like Max Williams had a good start, and then he got hurt, and then Ertz, was just, time trade the last year, and is literally one of the best tight ends Arizona has ever had. I know Kyler, when I was last down here, we talked about it, but so I think that, if he can, finally start taking some steps forwards, yes. But until I can see it otherwise, I'm going to say no.
What do you think, Troy?
I feel like, it's going to be. He's all the physical traits and everything. I mean, you watch him play; he's smooth, he's explosive, or he's like, he's smooth on the ball, he's explosive, he's big, strong, he's all that. But just the mental side, he's not quite there yet. I think we see a lot of Trey McBride mental errors, including like penalties, jumping off sides, or like missed assignments. So, we'll see. I mean, physically, he's got all the gifts, but he's got a lot of catch up in terms of the play, in the playbook and stuff. So we'll see. I hope he's not going to step into Zach Ertz's shoes and will be as impactful. Probably not, but he'll be a whole different beast. I think if he does make an impact, it'll be through other means. He'll be more like a Kittle type in a way if he does take a step up, I think, but it's still too early to tell.
Yeah, I think he's going to struggle a little bit still. I think we're going to see Max Williams elevated from the practice squad, and Max Williams, I would actually see him being probably more the primary tight end. But McBride's going to get some looks, but Steven Anderson is going to get in there too. And I'd be really surprised if we saw McBride really take off in any way. We'll see some flashes hopefully, but he's made a lot of mental errors, and I'm not worried about that. Rookie tight ends struggle often, so I'm not going to worry about that. But yeah, I'm not expecting anything big from him. Let me say hey to some of the other folks that are in here. David Pan, I guess cutting Eno is one way to ensure that Steve Keim doesn't have a successful 8-round pick to his draft record. We're going to talk about the Eno thing. Believe you me. Oh, man. Yeah. Grant Ezra saying, I thought Wilkes lost the locker room here in Arizona. Yeah, I heard some stuff about that. So, I'm not saying he's a great coach, but I do think he got kind of a raw deal here. But, but he hasn't, to your point, Trey, he hasn't really done much since. So, right. So, but it's nice to see him have some success. We got Pale Time in the house. Thank you for dropping in. Hey, Joe, great job tonight. Thanks for joining the roundtable. Appreciate you having me. Gary Shaw here with the question, when is Hollywood coming back? For we know. So what I heard is by the bye week, right? They expected him at least by the bye week, maybe before that. So I think in the next 2 weeks. What do you guys have any other thoughts on that or hear anything different than that?
No, yeah, Cliff said day to day with he expects him for sure after the bye week. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess we'll see. Cliff's kind of hard to judge on injury stuff.
I thought I heard somewhere with, yeah. You can tell I'm rusty with my timing.
That's all right.
But I thought I had heard something within the next week, which would probably coincide with the bye week. But at this point, just don't come back until 100%, because the last thing anybody would want is to re-aggravate it, and then now that sets the house of cards down. No pun intended, even more.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so we'll see, but I think the consensus is at the latest after the bye, but good chance before that. The bye is what, week 13, is it? I think week 12 or week 13. So it should be soon, hopefully, right? Jordan P, thanks for being here. Did you guys see the comments about Kyler not being liked by Buddha and having no leadership? Seems like the reports and this stuff about him is piling up to the point that it can't be ignored. I saw that. I think it was something McIntyre. I listened to the quote. Did either of you see that?
I didn't see that.
It was on Twitter, and I will tell you though, maybe there's something there, maybe there isn't, but the quote, the reporter, he took a quote from Kingsbury that was basically saying, hey, we loved what we saw out of Colt McCoy this week. He came in, worked hard, he was prepared, he was early, whatever. He was praising Colt McCoy, and this reporter spun that to being an indictment on Kyler, like saying, oh, well, he was taking a shot at Kyler. And I don't buy that. I mean, maybe Kyler's got some. I mean, I know I've been a Kyler defender, and maybe there is fire to that smoke with the Kyler stuff, but I don't think Cliff was taking a shot at Kyler there. I mean, if you're a coach and you're asked about a guy who played for you, you're going to say great things about him, and it doesn't mean you're slighting someone else. You're just going to talk up that person. So it felt like the person who made that report really stretched to take some conjecture out of that. I don't think there's any issues between Buddha and Kyler. I haven't heard or seen anything, but none of us are in that building, so we don't know. But I will say the basis for the report that this comes from was pretty shoddy. So maybe there's something there, but the way that he came to this conclusion doesn't move the needle for me. I don't know. So, real quick, let me say to some of the other folks, then we'll get into our topics for tonight. Austin Hoy, Wilkes' offense was historically one of the worst offenses in history. Some guys should stick to being coordinator. Yeah, but he was a defensive coach, so you have to remember that. But it was a
Mike
bad
McCoy's fault.
Yeah, right. So we have to be fair, right? Let's see. We've got who else we got here? We've got Caden Culver. Thank you for being here. If the Cardinals beat the 49ers, can they make a run for the division? I think that's a good question. I know, like,
about that.
I've been kind of writing them off, but do either of you have thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I don't want to get my hopes up. Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
No, you said it. That's well said.
Yeah, I kind of said that I felt like their season was over when they lost to Seattle last week. Yes, this Rams win was nice, but the Rams are a reeling team. They're not a good team right now. If they beat the 49ers, they still have to fight their way up. They have to, like, to win the division, they need a better record than Seattle because Seattle has a tiebreaker on them, right? So they have to surpass Seattle. And the 49ers are working their way up to. And then when you talk about the wild cards, I mean, I feel like they have a better chance of winning the division than a wild card spot. It just with the way the NFC East has got those on lockdown, it feels like. So is it possible? Yes, but I'm not getting my hopes up either on that. Did you want to add?
I just kind of had the clarity today when I was thinking. I was like, our entire offensive line minus our tackles are essentially all backups. I'm like, you don't really hear about those teams scraping together wins to make the playoffs. Like, usually it's when they get healthy, and we're not getting healthy. And it's like those three, those interior, they're not coming back this year.
Mm-hmm.
Pugh's out for the year. Will Hernandez is out for the year. Rodney probably done for the year.
At least 4 weeks,
but
right?
At least 4 weeks. So
and
that's usually not the recipe for teams coming back.
Yeah, they always talk about the teams that get healthy this time of year, right? Surge. So that seems super unlikely. That's a great point. Lennon Wolf, thanks for being here. It's been awesome to see you, but a channel member, a great supporter. What's up, Joseph? Sorry, the NFC West Network. Appreciate you being there. Good to see you. And then let's see, we got Jose Sanchez. Thanks for being here. Glad you're live with all the crap news out there. I need a distraction. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. So for sure. Dakota Bedard, thanks for being here. What is cutting Jonathan Ward? Make more cap room? No, Jonathan Ward is on the injured reserve right now. You'd have to release him with an injury settlement, I believe, and his contract is small. There's nothing to gain that's substantive or worthwhile, I think, from doing that. So yeah. All right. So let's get into our topics. First thing we want to talk about is the Eno Benjamin thing. Okay. Obviously, the Cardinals released Eno Benjamin in a move that shocked everybody, right? I mean, with the way Cliff Kingsbury talked about him in the offseason, the way he, how popular it was. He seems like a really good guy, played well this year. And, then there've been some reports about that, right? That there was some disagreements over playing time, and Kyle Odegaard reported that. And I saw Mark Jackson mention in the chat in the live stream I was in before that Gambo is reporting that there was kind of a heated argument. We're getting little bits and pieces. So Aaron, why don't you get us started? What are your thoughts on the whole Eno Benjamin saga?
I mean, it's just baffling. I mean, if for those who have been around watching these streams for a while, you know that I was pounding the table for Eno Benjamin for years, even definitely when I was back writing for Raising Zona. And I knew he could be successful in this system. and the dude that goes out and has the best yards per carry on the team. And it's just, I have a saying, as in Arizona, we just like to make things hard on ourselves for no reason. And I would like to think that this falls perfectly in line with that mantra. Um, and one thing that I think is really important is, like, if you look how, Seattle grew, their what should have been a dynasty, or their, reign over the NFC, at least the NFC for a while. They had players they had drafted, and then also, was literally, in a sense, homegrown talent with him playing at Arizona State. When you get good players like that and you let them grow and you let them blossom like that, they become fan favorites. Everybody gets bought in, and it just helps everything. Just helps everything grow. It was kind of like how the Cardinals finally got to the Super Bowl in 2008. Okay. Sorry, my cat is going wild over here.
That's all right. We have 3 cats. I get it.
So, it just doesn't make any sense. Whether stop. And Troy, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, it's so just a preface on how my fantasy team is going. I had to start an all ASU backfield last week with Rashad White, which was
that
good.
worked out. Yeah.
Eno Benjamin did not work out. The nice bagel. I think we kind of knew Eno was on. Seems like a perennial short leash. I mean, it was kind of revealed that he almost didn't make the team. I think his rookie year, they almost cut him, but they kept him around. I think for backup, and then each year he kind of progresses a little bit. But whenever they give him a chance, they never seem to take him fully off the leash, except for the Saints game, which he did well. He made his paycheck. So I think there's something definitely strange. I mean, definitely got heated and strange happened for sure, because why would you cut your most productive running back, especially when your RB1, James Conner, is injury prone, and has been shown that, as we've seen that. I like Keontae Ingram, don't get me wrong. He hasn't lit up the world by any stretch. He's looked great. Jonathan Ward, still on IR. Darrell Williams still on IR. It's just like, what are we doing here? Yeah. The cat got grounded. So I don't know. It's very strange. I think maybe kind of stepped. Seems to have crossed the line with the Cardinals, and they weren't happy with them.
That's what it's increasingly sounding like, and the Cardinals have and Steve Keim and have kind of taken the hit on this, right? Because Cardinals fans love because for all the reasons we talked about. He played at Arizona State University. He was a 7th round pick, barely made the team, but worked hard. And then this offseason, we heard everything from Cliff Kingsbury about how he had the best offseason of anyone on the team. And then he ends up being, the number 2 running back and playing well. And so everyone loved him. So it was a baffling roster move from a football perspective, and I think a bad move from a football perspective. Not, wasn't a good move to release him. There, I have kind of taken it easy on not totally, taking to task the front office, because I don't know how those conversations went down, and it would be interesting to know. Often there's stuff going on behind closed doors we don't know.
Jalen Strong, former ASU wide receiver, for those who remember the Jail Mary, he tweeted something that he talked to and he said it was a petty reason by the Cardinals, but he doesn't blame them or something like that. He says, so
okay. So maybe we'll find out more. It sounds like he, Eno's shared with his former teammates. But here's what I will say. And this might be an unpopular opinion with some folks. I think the PR impact on this is bigger than the football impact. Eno's a good running back, but running backs are not hard to replace in the NFL these days. And the Cardinals they only have 2 on their active roster, Connor and Keontae Ingram. I like Keontae Ingram. I think he's going to be good. They have a couple guys on the practice squad, Tyson Williams and Corey Clement, that have played in the league before. I don't think the season's already going sideways for the Cardinals, but I don't think this move is going to be devastating from a football perspective. It's not a good move. They are better with him than without him, but it is not a devastating football move. it's a bad PR move, as popular as he is, and with all the things that have gone wrong for this team in the offseason, all the media narratives, all the stuff with Kyler and Cliff. And this is just one more thing for people to sink their teeth into when they want to talk about how dysfunctional this team is. So it's a PR mess. As a football move, it's a bad move, but not a devastating move. That's my opinion. What do you guys think about that?
It's just par for the course for the Cardinals being terrible with PR. Like they're
Yeah.
the worst at it. So it's just this year they've just been really bad with the whole Kyler contract, the study clause. It's just I don't know what is happening there in terms of that. I don't know. Aaron, up to you.
Yeah. What I mean, as far as the football move, what do you guys think about that? Am I wrong about it's not as a devastating football move? Aaron, I think you're muted, buddy. The cat got your tongue? Huh?
Yeah.
Huh? Oh,
there we
boo.
go.
Bad host.
I wanted to make sure that she wasn't screaming or everything when I picked her up. I'm going to disagree with you here.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of cherry pick from one of my future points, or not even really reference from something I listened to the other day. So I just because it's the only tolerable sports station around up here on the radio, I listen to The Score in Chicago, 670 AM. And what they do is they have Trent Dilfer come on and they talk about Justin Fields and, analyze his stuff. Now, stay with me on this one. Basically, the gist of what they were saying, in order for the Bears to increase Justin Fields' potency is reduce the runs, throw more. However, the other thing that is also so big is that the run game is there to give the quarterback a mental break during a game. And with a lot of all the pressure that's gone on with the contract, the study clause, and everything else that happened to collapse last year, the running game could have been a huge benefit for the Cardinals, had our interior line not just been eviscerated. So I really think that, yes, they may be fine in the long run, but I actually do think that is going to hurt them because Connor's not the guy who's really he's not a workhorse back like he used to be. He just seems to be a short yardage specialist, if that's ever a thing. And Keontae Ingram is a big question mark. And no offense to Jonathan Ward, but Jonathan Ward is like the new Jonathan Ward is like the new DJ Ward or whoever, the DJ Foster, that just he's always sticking around and doesn't really contribute a lot, but plays a lot of special teams. So I don't like the move.
Okay. I don't like the move either. I think there's not as huge of a drop off from Eno to Keontae as people think. Maybe that's I agree. The running game's
Did we lose Joe?
Did he drop?
Yeah, I think he dropped.
Now, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I had a little issue. So yeah. Anyway, running game's important. I just don't think there's as huge of a drop off. But yeah. Again, it's not a good move, right? I think it's a bad move. I will say. I want to say hey to a few folks that popped in here. We got Ian Keller. What up, Joe? What's up, Joe? Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. We got Mikey Cardinal. Hopefully more is shown on Hard Knocks about the Eno situation. It'd be interesting to see. I have a feeling. I doubt.
It sounded like a lot of it went down in the hotel, and I don't think Hard Knocks gets footage from that. So
I don't
think we're going to see much.
Exactly. I think we're going to see a conversation about the move that's going to be very kind of PR spun and on the coach's terms and GM's terms. They're going to be sitting with Steve Keim in a conference room, and he's going to say something really, kind of reflective, like, well, Eno's a great player, and sometimes, we're not going to get the meat we want. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah. Real quick, say hey to a few of the other folks that have jumped in here. Jake Worderly, thank you for being here. They purposefully waited till after Cliff's presser yesterday to avoid this. Been a tradition when, controversial news hits. I mean, they did, but listen, I know that's frustrating as a fan, but that's PR 101, right? The first rule of public relations is put water on fires or let fires go out if possible, and so waiting till after, was as frustrating as it is. It's smart. It's the right PR move. No one likes that, but yeah. Got Jason. What's up, Joe? Thank you for being here. Appreciate you hanging out with us. A lot of great folks in the chat. We have Keenan Oken. Thank you for being here. Connor gets hurt when he carries too much. We need, listen. I think, again, they should have kept him. They're better off with him than without him. Howie Dewey, thank you for being here. Eno is okay, nothing special, just a bad move when Connor is so injury prone. They have no depth. Yeah, I think we all probably agree with that. Keith Davis, thank you for being here. I think this says more about Cliff and Kime than it does about Eno. I think that's probably also true. Ralphie Salvatore, the Texans swooped up first. Yep, first in the waiver order. Like I said, I would be curious to see how many people. I tried Googling, couldn't find the answer, but I would really like to know how many waiver claims were put in on Eno. So, any other thoughts on Eno before we move on to the next topic? We all Eno'd out.
I just think that the Texans have probably a quietly, top 10 running back duo now. I mean, Damian Pierce is good. He's kind of your thunder guy. Can be your lightning, but he can also run over people too. I used to write for the Texans on Toro Times for Fansided, and I think that's a real good pickup for them. So good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Anything else, Trey, on that before we move on?
No, I'm just bummed, but
right.
Life goes on.
Exactly, right. Wish Eno the best. He seemed like a good dude. He was, even if he had a heated argument, I'm not going to fault him for that. Happens. Humans are humans. He always just seemed like a nice guy, right? From everything I saw in interviews. All right. So what we're going to talk about now is the next biggest story, probably that people are talking about in the Cardinals interwebs space. Do we have a quarterback controversy? McCoy and Kyler. I mean, GOAT McCoy, right? He is 4-1 or 3-1, is he with the Cardinals? He gets 3-1, right?
3-1, yeah.
Yeah, 3-1 in 4 games. Had a really efficient game for the Cardinals. They got a win against the Rams. And there's a lot of folks out there saying that, Colt should be starting and things like this. You can probably guess where I stand on that, but we've got it in the chat right now. Colt should play till he loses. Aaron, what are your thoughts on the whole Colt McCoy Kyler situation in terms of, what's going on there?
It almost seems like the hamstring issue is a yearly thing now. I mean, I was there in Seattle in 2019 when they ended up winning that game, but he got hurt in the third quarter and didn't finish. But if there's anything, it's either been his hamstring or it's been his shoulder. The thing is that if we can look back, at least over the last 2 seasons, is that if Murray is not 100%, this season and what happens after that is a vertical dive. And so the question is Cliff really going to be able to withstand the pressure to keep playing Colt, even though Kyler may be like 90% healthy or whatever it is? But it's like Kyler could play, but should he? But there's also the pressure that they just gave him pretty much $250,000, and so you're going to be fighting that internal dialogue or monologue, whatever it is. So I think that if Cliff wants to act in the best interest of him continuing this and what he wants to build here in Arizona, which is hopefully a championship, I think he has to play Colt. He has to play his, a chance to, give Colt a chance to win games. And that's one thing that hasn't really happened consistently is go win games.
What do you think, Troy?
Well, I mean, going into the Ram, when I kind of figured it was going to be Colt instead of Kyler, I already kind of had the thought, I'm like, I know what this game is going to look like. He's going to look pretty good. And then I already knew just kind of where the media was going. I'm like, it's going to be a Colt versus Kyler thing. And lo and behold, that is exactly what we had. And I was I've been watching a lot of House of the Dragon, so this is like now like we have like the blacks versus the greens, the Hightower supporters versus the Targaryens. It's the Colts versus the Kyler supporters. It's divided our fan base, and I don't think people realistically think people don't think Colt is the future option. They just know, or we all just have the worry now that is Kyler our future option? Because no one wants Colt to be here long term. We all know that. We're all smart thinking individuals, but so going forward, I guess, I mean, if Kyler's healthy, he has to play, because we got to figure this out. What, like, Kyler's ours for the next 2 years. That contract pretty much makes him untradeable, or we have a serious dead cap situation. So we have to figure this out. And if anything, I just hope that Colt showed Kyler that, hey, the quick game's there if you want it. You just got to take it. You got to get better at diagnosing defenses and being decisive, which I think we all know that is one of the big bugaboo for a lot of us this year. Is Kyler's very indecisive. Even when there's like a decent pocket, he refuses to step up and try to run out the back straight into a DN. So if Kyler's healthy enough to play, I think he should play. Again, the narrative's going on, the teams seemed so much better and they seemed in a better mood when Colt was playing. It's like, yeah, because they were winning yesterday, right? Or on Sunday. Like, that
everyone's
helps a lot.
In a better mood when they win.
Yeah. Exactly. And like the main thing I'll say is, and we kind of talked about it on the post-game show, is that was a great Colt McCoy game. And it took a very bad Rams team with their backup quarterback, a defense that's pretty much given up. I mean, Aaron Donald wasn't wreaking havoc on our back line because he all of a sudden wasn't very good. It's because I think that team's just checked out. So it took a backup quarterback, a bad defense, and all of that. And Colt McCoy's offensive production was still below Kyler's offensive production this year, which, if we all agree, Kyler's having a very mediocre to bad year. What's the argument here?
Yeah.
Like, come on now.
Yeah.
I know it looked better and it felt better watching it. I agree. Like, I'm right there with that. But it's like, if we don't take this franchise seriously, it's not going to be Colt McCoy. Is it Kyler Murray going forward? We don't know, but it's up to the franchise the next 2 years to figure that out.
Yeah. Let me get so there's a lot of folks in the chat chiming in on their thoughts. So, Keenan Oken saying Colt should play till he loses. Mark Jackson says play Colt this week and Kyler next week. And then let's see. Jake saying no, but Kyler has to do better, or has to better at taking the check downs on his reads, has to stop playing hero ball. I agree with that. Felipe is saying Colt. Avery is saying start McCoy. He has the hot hand. Ian saying, in my opinion, we should bench Kyler for Colt if he's not 100%. So play only, will not play Kyler till he's healthy. David saying, I do admire McCoy's professionalism. Listen, I loved the McCoy signing. He was the kind of backup we needed right here. And he's shown to be exactly, this is what we wanted from him, right? A guy who could come in and drive the bus when he needed to, and be a mentor, for Kyler, hopefully, right? Mikey Cardinal, Colt beat San Francisco last year, absolutely. But if Kyler's healthy, he should play. Ian saying, to your point, Aaron was saying hamstring issues, yearly problem. Jordan says we have a quarterback controversy in the sense that Colt showed the deficiencies in Kyler's game that shouldn't be there for year 4 quarterback. Kyler is, of course, still the starter, though. Dakota is saying Colt, he is old school football player. Also, Kyler's new school football player. But we invested a lot of money in Kyler, right? Tom Baum agrees with you, Aaron. Your points. But if Kyler's healthy, he should play. Jason saying Colt looks more poised. Let's be real, Kyler ought to be worried. Tom saying Kyler can sit and still learn. He was not playing well before. So a lot of different thoughts. Let's see. We got Ralphie saying one of the announcers during the game said that it's rare to see Cardinals throwing down the center of the field. Does Murray usually avoid the center? So how much does that matter? I mean, he doesn't throw in the middle of the field a lot, and that was the same thing. Russell Wilson did the same thing, and that's a height thing. Let's be honest. I mean, that's Russell Wilson didn't throw in the middle because he's short. Kyler, that's one of the limits of his game. Every quarterback has limits. That's one of Kyler's. So he doesn't do that a lot, right?
I think last year in that first 8 stretch, though, like he was hitting the middle of the field. That was part of the reason of that success is, that he wasn't afraid to hit it with Max Williams. But this year, again, Ertz has been a safety blanket, and that's really going to hurt going forward.
So there's a lot of other comments. I won't have time to get to them all. So here's what I would say. I think you both make some good points. I think there's some good points in the chat. Let's start with this. Like, people are talking about, Colt looks more decisive. Colt has been playing this league for 12 years, is it? He's a longtime veteran, and he's seen it all, right? And he's probably better at that than most starting quarterbacks in the league right now in terms of his ability to recognize things. The reason he's a backup is because he doesn't have the same arm talent as some of the other quarterbacks. I think Aaron just had to drop out for a second. But of course he's going to process stuff quicker than Kyler. He's going to process stuff quicker than a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. That's a given, right? But there's some things that Kyler can do that Colt McCoy cannot do. All right. But Kyler does have his limitations. So, maybe I would probably say, I think it is probably a good idea to sit Kyler until he's completely healthy, like really, really healthy. Let him sit a couple games, let him watch Colt, let him spend that time, working with the coaching staff, watching the game from the sideline, seeing what Colt's doing, and let him get really healthy. But once Kyler's healthy, win, lose, or draw, you have to put him in there. You've invested too much in him. This team isn't going anywhere long-term this year. You're even if you eke into the playoffs, unless Kyler is back on, you're not winning a Super Bowl with Colt McCoy. You're not getting through the playoffs with Colt McCoy and winning a Super Bowl, even if you eke into the playoffs. So what you need to do is you need to get Kyler right. So get him healthy and get him back in there. And you've got to figure out what you got with him. Like you said, there's at least two years on his deal before he's even movable, if that's what you want to do. Someone showed it's like some crazy $90 million dead cap hit or something. It's something ridiculous. If you tried to trade him, you can't
even start thinking about.
You can't. So, like it or not, what you have to do is you have to give Kyler every chance to be that guy. You have to do it smart, right? Don't play him when he's banged up behind a patchwork offensive line. So if he's not healthy, keep Colt in there. But when he's healthy, get him in there and work through stuff. And then next year, fix that offensive line and work with Kyler on the reads and the things that he needs to get better at. But your plans have to be, we're going to figure out how to make this work with Kyler. That to me, I just don't think there's another way forward for the next 2 to 3 years. So, any other thoughts on that?
No, but I
think Colt McCoy is not.
No, go ahead. Aaron, yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, you go ahead, Aaron. No, you're good.
I was going to make a little joke here. Joe, you mean to tell me that Colt McCoy is not going to pull our Earl Morrall and give us a Super Bowl victory?
I just don't think that's going to happen.
No, like Dallas, they had a similar situation with the Cooper Rush Dak situation. Did Dallas even blink when Dak was ready to come back? Not even close. And they might even have more of an argument because Cooper Rush is young. Like, they might be like, oh, what do we got here? And Dak has come back, still doesn't let up the world exactly. Dallas is Dallas. Their defense is the story there. But, I don't know. You just got to let them play and let them figure it out. Again, we have the 7-week sample size of last year where he can run this offense very efficiently. He's putting up elite numbers. So we've seen it before. What does it take to get it back? We'll see. But no, I agree. He's been just okay. I feel like some people act like we have the worst quarterback on the planet. It's just he's just been okay, guys.
He's got 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's Matthew Stafford's got 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Kyler's bad season is close to 65% completion percent, twice as many touchdowns. It's that's not, what I'm saying? That's not that bad. It's not good enough for Kyler.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I mean, you look at it, it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. It needs to be better for what we're expecting from him. But
like, imagine if you're like the Raiders and you just paid Derek Carr and like watching what's happening there. Like, you would be losing your mind at this moment in time. Aaron Rodgers, who they just paid a lot, looked terrible for most of this season, is now maybe just turning around. So I think we're being a little too impatient. We just got to let it roll. And, at the end of the day, Cliff's going to go before Kyler, realistically, if just judging by the contract situation, but we'll see what happens.
No, I could not see a scenario where they would move on from Kyler and keep Cliff. I just don't see a universe where that happens here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think you have a good point there. Real quick, I've got a super chat from Jason. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate the kindness and the generosity in the super chat. Kyler arrow mail passes, can't make reads, immature. I love you, Jason, but I don't agree with that. He can make reads. He doesn't make them at the same level as Colt McCoy, a 12-year vet who's been sitting on the benches and watching and played it for tons of coaches and systems. But he can make reads. He can get better at it, but he makes reads. I mean, I remember last season he had those deep touchdowns to Christian Kirk. There were a couple of those where he saw something and he made a read at the line. He saw something in defense and he threw two like beautiful touchdowns last year like that. He can make reads, but he can get better.
He was killer against the blitz last year, and that is strictly making reads, knowing where the pressure's coming from and not. So again, he's shown he can. What's going on this year? We don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things we're not in his head. But we've seen it. That's the frustrating thing is we've seen him be elite and do everything we want him to do. It's just not happening at the moment.
Not for just a one-off, like a 7-game stretch, right? He can do it. I agree he's got to work on some things, but I think people are making it sound like he's Trey Lance. No, he's not that. He's right now still in the top half of quarterbacks, even with the bad season he's having, right? So, yeah. But thank you. Listen, respect you, Jason. I appreciate you're a great dude. I see it differently. But yeah. Any other thoughts, on the Colt Kyler thing, gents?
I just had one kind of thought. I guess my one slight insecure worry I do have about Kyler, and I'm worried we might have a Carson Wentz situation, and that's I kind of can't stop thinking about it at times. Like if you remember the Carson Wentz arc, decent rookie year, looked good. Second year was elite, putting up, great numbers, gets hurt, and then that's the Super Bowl winning Eagles team, which turns out it wasn't just him. It seems Nick Foles took that team to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But then the third year, when the roster was a little more depleted, because again, they just had the Super Bowl run, and it was up to Carson Wentz to kind of like will these teams to victories. Like it wasn't happening. And then you started hearing chatter from the Eagles that he's not really liked, that Carson Wentz is tough to like coach. He doesn't really listen to people. He's kind of isolated. Similar stuff we're hearing now about Kyler. And we've been hearing this stuff about him for like the past, I think since his rookie year, we've been hearing these whispers about Kyler. It's the fact that he's not very coachable, and it's just a slow down trajectory. I'm worried. Hopefully, we don't have one of those situations now, because Kyler keeps progressing. His arc's a little different, but I just hope we're not in that down where it becomes a situation that becomes unsalvageable.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. That's the thing you fear, right? With any quarterback, right? You worry about when you invest in them, right? It does that happen, and that's kind of that worst case scenario, right? That you pay the guy lots of money, and then that happens, right? So here's hoping it doesn't. Again, I'm a big Kyler believer. I've said that over and over and over again. I think they'll figure it out. I think a lot of what's going on this year is the offensive line, and I think, and I hope I'm right about this, but I think we're gonna have to wait till next year. I know that's not very satisfying, but I think next year they get the offensive line right, and we have Hollywood and Nuke and Rondale Moore, this is going to be a really good offense. And I think we're all going to be next year looking back like, okay, 2022 was a blip. It was an off year and we're going to be fine. But you're right. I mean, that's the fear, right? That's the fear with when you pay a quarterback. But I saw someone said in the chat, we shouldn't have, that it was Kyler's fault. We're not impatient. Kyler's the one who forced the Cardinals' hand maturely. He has one playoff game. We didn't want to bet on. Here's the thing. I did a video on this back in March. I'd encourage you to go back and watch it called "He's Getting Paid" or "The Cardinals Are Going to Pay Kyler." The way quarterback contracts work, you pay that guy year 3, or you're going to move on from him. Like there's only one outlier for that, really, and that's Lamar Jackson, and that's a weird case. And he's his own. He's his own agent.
Yeah.
But what with quarterbacks, if you're not paying him, if you don't pay them, what happens is it becomes this indictment, and it shows you don't believe them, and you have a Baker Mayfield situation. And then so. And now I know there are people who would have rather moved on from Kyler, and if that's your opinion, that I respect your right to have that opinion, And if they needed to move on from Kyler, then they should have done that. But I think it was the right move to sign him, and you got to build around him. There are a lot of teams that would take him right now. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and Jason's saying Joe is $7.5 million getting done. Listen. Because it's one game. That's why. Because it's one game. It's a one. And you say okay, and you say he's played 4 games, and one of those games,
the game was over in the first quarter.
It was over in the first quarter.
Yeah.
So why it's happening is because they've had some winnable games with the quarterback came and did his job with a game plan that was built for that, and the defense had good games on those games, and that happened, right? I just the upside with Kyler is much higher. Kyler can do things Colt can't. You have to get Kyler right for that to happen. It's not happening right now. I get that. But like long term, you can't win. You cannot build a contending team with Colt McCoy and that type of offense. It worked against the Rams. It's worked in a few games, but that is not sustainable. You have to build an offense that can make big plays and put up more points and have a quarterback. Like, listen, we're all talking about what a great game Colt McCoy had. It was 238 yards and 1 touchdown, right? That's the game we're all talking about. And it was a good game. That was a great game for a backup quarterback, right?
But he actually threw the ball to DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
9 times in the first half.
He actually threw it,
and
he actually targeted him.
Yeah. Listen, Lance, I appreciate you, Lance. It was one game. How many is Kyler won? Give credit where credit is due. Joe Colt didn't turn over no. Listen, you're not hearing me then because I'm giving Colt credit. I said I loved the Colt signing. He's a great backup. He's doing exactly what you brought him in to do. He's done his job perfectly. If a backup quarterback gives you 3 wins out of 4 games, that's amazing. Okay, and I love Colt McCoy as a backup. I love him as a mentor for Kyler, and I love that signing, and it continues to be a good signing. And it was a 1 game. He did his job. But you cannot build a sustainable contending team around Colt McCoy. If Kyler's the guy we think he is, you can, but you have to get him right and get the offense right. In the short term, right now, yeah, Colt's doing it, but you can't build your team around Colt. That's my point. So I am giving him credit. You might have missed that, Lance. But it was a good game. But, so listen. Yeah, and I see the comments, yes, Kyler's had a bad year. And I'm not contending that he hasn't had a down year for Kyler. But there is no future building around Colt. You have to figure out how to make this work with Kyler, even if you lose games along the way, getting that right. The long-term plan is you got to get Kyler right. And you might have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward to do that. So again, that's the reality of it. Yeah. Other thoughts though. Sorry, I know I got a little bit of a soapbox thing going there. Other thoughts on the Colt Kyler thing before we go on? Okay. So I want to get to maybe a little bit of a change of topic, something a little bit different. We've talked about before the season, is, maybe they have a chance, but we're kind of looking at it as it's probably not going anywhere this year. So with that in mind, what are some of the things that you're keeping an eye on for the rest of the season? And to kind of connect it to what happened last week, what are some of the things you saw against the Rams that give you hope, or things that you hope are trends, just things that stood out from that game and leading to what are some of the things you want to see and you're watching for the rest of the season? Aaron, why don't you get us started on that? Can you hear me, Aaron? There you are. Okay.
Yeah, hopefully my
man, Joe.
connection doesn't time out. It's been a little laggy, but I'm looking forward to seeing how Lucida Smith continues to grow, especially as a rookie. But him and Rashad Coward. Yep, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
We hear you. Do you hear us?
Can you hear me? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, he's on quite a lag. Is what's happening here.
Is there a lag? Okay.
This is quite the game of telephone here.
Yeah, I know. Okay, Troy, why don't you get us going?
Yeah.
What do you see? Yeah.
I think I know a lot of people were excited about it, and I was super excited. Our guy Myjai Sanders coming through, and kind of Jordan P saying, Zaven, Isaiah, they're all starting to kind of come around. Cameron Thomas looked pretty good too. Some of the draft picks are starting to develop. Rondale, again, looked electric. That one-handed catch was insane. Really excited to see him. The horizontal game wasn't. I don't think they threw one screen to him. All the screens I think went to D-Hop, and maybe.
I rewatched the game and I just looked at all the throws behind the line of scrimmage. I counted 9 throws behind the line of scrimmage, but I don't think any of them were to Rondale Moore. They were to other players, and so he was getting targeted on the correct side of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, so that's great to see. And then not to beat a dead horse, but whenever Kyler comes back, I want to see him start stepping it up and start earning that contract. But yeah, I mean, those are kind of, again, we kind of talked about this after the Seattle loss. Just the little things you kind of have to look out for and kind of fill your Sundays with hope, because I think this is going to be a long road in terms of what else could be there.
Yeah, and Aaron had some connection issues, and he had to go anyway around this time. But he's looking forward to seeing Lucida Smith grow, seeing the rookie, right? So yeah, and Aaron, thanks for being here. Appreciate you joining us tonight. So yeah, I think Myjai Sanders having a really nice game. He hadn't really had a game, like he had 1 sack, but he hadn't really had a good game across the board yet. And that was a great game. It was like a coming out party, right? It just was a heck of a game. So, we talked about this some before, like the future of the pass rush. It'd be nice if we can bank on him and Cam Thomas as the future pass rushers. So that was nice to see, for sure. Seeing Rondale Moore getting targeted down the field was nice, for sure. Seeing Budda Baker, we know who he is, but wow. Right. Just
are we sure he had a high ankle sprain? I love the story of him coming back, but have you ever heard of a guy coming back 1 week off a high ankle sprain? So I think that might have been misdiagnosed. I don't know, but yeah, I love the storyline. Buddha's insane. We all love him. He's 100%. Everyone's favorite Cardinal. So are you having the internal or I don't know, tension of I like the win, but in my head I'm just I might want the draft pick instead.
I mean, a little bit, but I think I like having this win. I mean, I don't know how many more wins this team's going to get. You know, so I think
Keely Rango's looking nice. I want some Keely Rango in my life,
right? In round 1, yeah. So I still like a win against McVay and Wolford. I'll take that over a few draft spots in the position,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but that's a good question. That's a fair question, right? So, Jordan P saying, and Antonio Hamilton trending up guy. He clamped Cup and was amazing everywhere, insanely high off offensive grade as well, or PFF grade as well. I think I meant we have something with and I've been talking about him since last season. You know, we picked him up. The Buccaneers, Tampa Bay he was amongst their final cuts, and then we picked him up last year, and he was quietly one of our better cornerbacks. I mean, Robert Alford was our best cornerback last year when he was healthy. Byron Murphy Jr., was generally good, but man, Antonio Hamilton was really good, and he's playing well this year. He's our highest graded cornerback this year. I know he missed some games, but and like I said, he played up against Cooper Kupp until Kupp was unfortunately injured and playing really well. So he's I think he's 29 or 30. So he's about to turn 30 if he isn't already 30s, but cornerbacks can play into their 30s. So I think he's part of the future, at least for the next 3 years or so. I think he should be in terms of.
I think he's 28. So
is he okay?
Yeah.
So he's a guy that I definitely think we should keep around. It's nice to see what he's doing. So what are some of the things as we move into the back end of the season that you're watching and you want to see?
I definitely want to see again, where the pass rush ends up, because again, as we are projecting, we're probably going to be maybe top 10 draft pick, fringe top 10 draft picks, and kind of seeing. I feel comfortable not expending a premium pick there. Like, if Majay and Cam continue developing and going, then I don't want to spend the premium pick on an edge rusher. Like, let's hit cornerback, or let's do this, or so I want to see kind of where we're looking at in terms of that. And then, just again, the Kyler Murray development situation is still so important. Like, he's with us for the next 2 years, and we can't be having this discussion every time he misses a game or two and the backup looks slightly good. But and then just the defense, see if they stick through, because they've been quietly pretty good. I mean, they had a stretch of not playing very well, as we kind of documented, against much the surprise to some people. It's like, no, defense has actually been kind of not great lately, but seems to solidify and see advance, what you can get out of these guys. And hopefully by the end of it, the Zaven, Isaiah fears are completely washed out, gone. And we know we have a good idea on what this team needs going forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. Want to see those pass rushers. I want to see a heavy rotation. I think Marcus Golden's going to start as long as he's healthy for the rest of the year. But I like Dimakaji's been getting the start a bit, and then they've been rotating in the rookies. If it's me, what I want to see is I want to see Marcus Golden and Cam Thomas start, and then I want to see Myjai Sanders rotated in and getting roughly half of the snaps with Cam Thomas, or same amount as he is, and maybe rotate in a little bit, Dimakaji and Gardeck at points. But I want to see those two get a lot of snaps. I want to see, the cornerback situation is interesting because, Byron Murphy's played really well this year, and he's also playing on the outside a lot more than he did. His rookie year, he played on the outside a lot and struggled, was forced to start because of, a Patrick Peterson suspension, things like this. And then they moved him into the slot and he had a much better year. Right. But when they've played him outside, he's had down years when he's played more outside. And then when he's played in the slot more, he's had better years. This year, he's playing better, but he's also playing outside a lot, so it's like a double barrel improvement, right? He's having a better year, but he's also having getting more outside snaps than he has in his other good years. So I like what I'm seeing with that, obviously. Hamilton, and I'll tell you, Marco Wilson is having, his PFF grades are low. He's getting beat at points, but he's not getting torched. It's weird. He's not playing great, but he's also not getting torched. But I've been watching his PFF grades just kind of carefully, and it feels like they're trending up a little bit game over game. He had a couple bad games, but back half of in his last 4 or 5 games, he's had some of his best games of his career. So my hope is if we can see some steady improvement, like his PFF grade is like in the 40s, I think, and it's not good. But if we can see some steady improvement, and he can even get to be a 55, 60 PFF grade guy as our third or fourth cornerback, I'd like to see that. Obviously, the inside linebackers, as you talk about, they played well. Want to see them continue to get better. And see Zach Allen finish out the season strong. He's shown us thus far, he's been consistently good. I want to see him finish this. I don't want to see him fall off, right? I want to see him put a full season so we can be confident that he really is one of the answers on the interior defensive line, and we should pay him that money. So those are some all on the defensive side, like you said, though, right?
Yeah, offensively, there's really. I mean, the offense, like again, Lucida Smith maybe develop more. The Trey McBride situation, if he can really get going, and maybe Cliff start using him in more creative ways that suited to his skills, into more of like maybe almost like a USEC, 49ers kind of situation, or the H-back as they call it, move him around. I mean, I don't know, that might be a lot to throw at a rookie. But he was drafted at a premium pick, and now he has the runway. Like you kind of want to see those guys go, give him the leash. And like Isaiah Likely for the Ravens, he's a rookie. I don't know what round he was drafted, but he's tearing it up. I mean, he tore us up in the preseason, and he's doing great. I mean, he already has a great touchdown catch after Mark Andrews went out. So
yeah,
again, we always seem to be like looking at other teams and their rookies playing well, and we're like, why can't that be us? So like we're finally starting to see a little bit of that, and it feels good.
Yeah, for sure. Calvin, channel member, longtime supporter, thank you for being here. Has a couple questions here. One that we've been wrestling with for a while. Our away record is one of the best in the NFL. In your opinion, why is that? Also, do you think Vance will be offered another head coaching job in the near future? So what are your thoughts on that, Troy?
The away record, I have no idea. I think the team might just play a little better with a little sense of urgency on the road. They're a little out of their comfort zone. They're not coming from home. They're coming from a hotel. There's more sense of structure and regiment, maybe. Mm-hmm. And then I think the team plays better when like there's not as much stress or pressure. Like I think they feed off the away fans more than like our own fans. Like I feel like, I don't know. Again, there's so many reasons, but I think it's a little more buttoned up, a little more dialed in is why. And that usually happens when you're traveling, you're in a hotel, you have, curfews and all that stuff. Well, when you're home, you don't really have all of that. Like, unfortunately, let's just say before a couple of NFL games, I have seen some of the Cardinals out on Old Town on a Saturday night. I'm like, aren't you playing tomorrow? In that situation. So you can't really do that when you're on the road, I think. So and Vance, he might. I don't know. I feel like that the Dolphins gig was kind of his last hurrah, and that obviously went to Mike McDaniels, which, man, that's turning out to be a really good decision on their part, because that's Tua's like outperforming like Patrick Mahomes right now, which is like insane. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, like the home record thing is just so weird. I don't know. I looked at it a while back. They have had more difficult opponents on the road, at home than on the road, over the last couple of years, last season or two. I think last season, part of it, I think they had a home heavy schedule down the back end, and I think they collapsed for other reasons. So I think part of that is wrapped up in just the fact that the injuries and everything that went sideways down the stretch. So I think there's some of those just kind of spurious sort of things having to do with just when they've been healthy versus injured and playing well, and then also the playing better teams at home versus the road. Maybe there's some of that stuff you're talking about too. I don't know. That baffles me more than anything else with this team, to be honest. As far as Vance Joseph, we've talked about he's done a good job with the personnel he's had to work with, and I firmly believe that. but I don't think he's done a good enough job at this point that someone's going to hire him as a head coach. I think to your point, and like I think if like the league has trended so much towards offensive head coaches that you're always looking for that next Brian Dable or Mike McDaniel, that offensive coordinator who is doing well somewhere and can come in and be the next kind of brilliant offensive coordinator, offensive minded head coach. Defensive minded head coaches, they get hired sometimes, but like team, you if you're going to be a defensive coordinator that's going to get a head coaching job, you better be leading one of the best defenses in the league, not just overperforming with a young defense. So I just think I don't think it's going to happen soon. I don't think he's, maybe here in house we appreciate the job he's done, but I don't think he's done a good enough job that outside other organizations are going to look at and say, that's our guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. I think because look at Eberflus, he was kind of he was a defensive minded head coach, kind of, against the grain, and the Bears are overachieving a little bit, but it's not like their defense that is. It's Justin Fields becoming a very confident and very capable scrambler and just making insane runs that not quite as impressive as Lamar Jackson, but like in other ways, maybe a little more. Just some of his like speed is just insane. Fields is a must-watch TV now. He's kind of taken the mantle as like the scrambling king.
Yeah.
But again, that's almost in spite of Eberflus, not because of him.
Right. So, I don't think we're going to see Vance getting a head coaching job after this year. Maybe down the road. So, yeah. All right, folks in the chat, we've got maybe just a few more minutes. We're going to get out of here, but I'm going to ask you all a question. As we go down the rest of the season, what are the things you are watching for? Are there players you want to see, certain things you want to see continue, things you want to see, players who you're watching? Put in the chat what you're watching. We'll get some of your comments before we get out of here to see what you are watching. And we'll go from there. Dakota's got a question. What is our coaching tree for Cardinals? So you're asking what's our coaching tree? So if you're asking where our coaching tree is from, I guess it's the Mike Leach coaching
tree. Yeah.
The air raid, right? So we certainly have not developed our own coaching tree, but the one we are a withering branch of right now is
yeah,
right. So yeah. Lance is watching for the attitudes. He wants to see how the attitudes. Grandizer agrees with that. We're going to get some insights out of that with Hard Knocks, right? Caden Culver, I want to see Isaiah Collins make more of a role leading the defense, right? See them keep going. Let's see. Lance is a big Cliff defender. Him and Jordan P. Both are the fans and media. If they continue to bash on Cliff, to be fired, right? Let's see. Jose saying improvement team wide, less mistakes like last game, one step at a time. Yeah, they need to make. I mean, mistakes. I know we all get tired of seeing Cliff in his press conference say it's all these little mistakes, but he's right. That's been the problem. The little mistakes have been a problem, right? Cards only beat bad teams. I mean, this year, yeah.
So far, yeah.
Rand Eisner wants to see the cheerleaders. Oh, hey. Mr. Mono, I'm watching K1 in Hard Knocks. I want to see if the myths are true or if it's just media making crap up, right? Howie Dewey. I want to see the young players' development. I agree 100%.
I don't think they're going to show K1 being, if he is, I don't think they're going to show it in Hard Knocks. I think, again, the Cardinals have some slight editorial control, but I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, Kyler may be a very hard person to get along with, but you know who else is? Aaron Rodgers, and no one seems to care when they're winning. So
yeah,
at the end of the day, as long as we're winning and he's not like abusing people, if he's just hard to get along with, like that's professional sports. A lot of this, here's the thing, a lot of football players are probably divas and difficult and hard to get along with. He's just the quarterback, so he gets the brunt of it.
And things have gone sideways for this team, so it's been
exactly when you don't win, that's when the stuff comes out.
that's been my contention forever. I feel like it's old man get off my lawn stuff. Like, it's like, these young whippersnappers and their video games and their TikToks and it's like I just don't think that just doesn't, I don't know, but they got to win or it's going to be a story.
Right? I think one thing you can kind of get a vibe from is like Darren Urban and like some of the other Cardinals reporters, even like Kyle Odegaard, who was a former reporter for the Cardinals, who once you kind of see them a lot, you can kind of read on what their personal politics are with them. Like, I think it's quite clear Kyle Odegaard is not a huge fan of Steve Keim and the ownership, but now that he's off the leash in terms, so to speak, he can speak slightly more freely on it. And him and Darren always seem to be pretty pro Kyler. They seem to defend him. And Darren even said, like, for those who don't know, like Larry Fitzgerald was a bit of a diva and a nightmare in his early rookie years. And he's matured. Like when Kurt Warner really kind of took him under the wing, is like, hey, like this is how you be professional. Now, will Kyler ever get that? Who knows? But again,
I mean, that's a fair point. People do forget that. And Larry will acknowledge that himself, that he was kind of immature when he was young. Yeah. So,
I mean, have you seen Larry's dad on Twitter? He's the most immature person on the planet.
I follow him on Twitter and I kind of, it's like the dude's a little
off the handle a bit. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, for sure. Dakota saying more aggressive D-line, offensive line. Yeah, those are two areas want to see more from. I agree. Yeah. Want to see Cam Thomas, Myjai Sanders develop into great pass rushers, 100%. Jordan P. Watching Kyler's progression with making pre-snap reads and decisiveness maybe is what he needs. Also, the little interactions on Hard Knocks where they show with Kyler. Ray promotion. Sorry, if they beat Niners, will I have a little bit of hope? Think they can make 9 total games? Maybe. Let's see what else we want. Let's see other comments that people want to see. I want to see McBride show us why we picked him so high. I'd like to see that. Again, if he has a bad rookie season, I'm not going to stress about it again because sometimes Isaiah Alexis having a great season, but he also landed in the best spot. If you're right, the Ravens draft good tight ends, develop good tight ends, make good use of tight ends, 100%. Right. I want to see what we're going to get from McBride, even if it's a little messy. I want to see him get some snaps. Throw him out there, see what he can do. Right. Let's see. Any others? Trying to see if there's anything else. Okay. I think that's most of it. There's some things to watch, even if it isn't going to be a playoff run, there's a lot of storylines I'm excited about. There's a lot of things I want to see, players I want to see. There's some things to be excited about with this Cardinals team, Troy, anything you want to mention or promote or say before we get out of here?
I mean, so again, just work for Four Peaks. We're doing a lot of like World Cup stuff. So again, if you're another World Cup, watching that, we'll be doing stuff like some watch parties and stuff there. So keep your eyes peeled to that. On that, drink responsibly, 21 older, all that good stuff, and Redbird Lager. Have at it. There's new Suns brew cans too, if you're for the Suns, which is, I'm not even sure if that's even slightly. I mean, it's too early to tell, but Suns might be in for a little rough season until everyone gets healthy again.
Yeah, it could go a couple different ways with that one for sure. So
yeah, but another one, DA underperforming with new contracts. So that's a common trend here in Arizona.
Oh boy. Woof. I love the Suns and have been a fan of them since, when I moved to Arizona, I'm from Arizona, born, lived in California for 10 years, moved back to Arizona, I was 13 anyway. And so I started following the Suns, and I remember Tom Chambers and, Mark West and Jeff Hornacek and Kevin Johnson. I mean, that, I've been following them since back then. So I'm a long time Suns fan, but I think I'm glad I just cover one team on YouTube because I think I could only handle talking about the disappointments and stress and what's going wrong with one franchise. I think that grates on me enough, probably.
Plus, like, I think with the NBA season being so long, like that's just exhausting. Like, You have like 3 or 4 mini. I feel like almost the NFL season's almost getting a little too long at times. Where I'm like, oh man, like we got like 5 more games to go, like 5 more games to lose at this point. You know,
When they're losing, it sure feels too long, right?
I know, yeah.
So yeah. Well, Troy, I appreciate you being here. It's always fun to hang out with you. I appreciate everyone in the chat that's hanging out with us. All your comments.
Yeah, the chat was active tonight. It was fun. That was a good
chat
time.
was hopping, right?
Yeah, it was.
Got it going. So cool. Well, appreciate you guys being here. You know, here's hoping the Cardinals get another win against the 49ers. But more importantly, at this point, I think hope that we see, you know, some of the rookies and see some continued good play from some of those bright spots. So, you know, let's enjoy the game. It's going to be Monday night, right? So
in Mexico City.
That's going to be interesting. So
which of the NFC West teams do you hate the most?
Which NFC team do I hate the most?
Of the West, in the West Inner Division.
Maybe the Niners.
It's the Rams, just because one of my good friends is a Rams fan and he always talks so much crap when they just wipe the floor with us, so that would aggravate me to no end. But I also would hate the Niners. I hate Kyle Shanahan has that I'm the smartest guy in the room energy, and like it always backfires in his face, so you're just kind of like
That's fair.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope it all crashes and burns for them this year, but
you know what? Maybe the best outcome is that they continue to keep him, and he has one winning season every 3 years, and then they keep him because of that, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's what you wish for, right, with the Niners.
Yeah.
So
I think that's what would drive me too. Is like, oh, he's an offensive brilliant mastermind. And it's like he has the same record as Cliff, so I'm confused here. One's the dumbest person on the planet, and the other's a genius. Like, color me confused, but maybe we're all just a little jealous, I think, in the end. But
Probably. Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for being here. I appreciate all the folks in the chat. I'm gonna put the shout out for the channel members to thank them for their support, and we will see you all next time. Have a great week. Peace.